Hey everyone, my name's Chris Lambert. I co-host the Kanye West podcast, Watching the Throne, and today I thought we could go through this list from WhatCulture, talking about the 10 greatest samples of all time from Kanye West. I haven't looked over it yet, so we're going to be doing this fresh and see if we agree or disagree with some of these. All right, ready? Here we go. Starting off, God, this is a shitty website, isn't it? Number 10. Answers Me, Arthur Russell. This comes from 30 Hours. Yeah, this is a pretty cool one, especially because Kanye takes the lyrics, which have nothing to do with 30 Hours. It's like an island and maybe a lion, kind of esoteric, but how he modulates the sample and kind of works with it, it makes Arthur Russell sound like he's saying 30 hours, which is really cool, even though that's not what's being said at all. But it just goes to show the little details that Kanye does as a producer that elevate him so much. So yeah, this is a pretty good sample. What else do we got? Number 9. Bound. Ponderosa Twins +1. Yes, this is a great sample, and it also makes an appearance on Tyler the Creator's album Igor. I think it's What's Good is when he uses the Bound sample, or maybe it's earlier in the album. It's actually hard to find this song, I do believe. When we were doing the latest coverage of it for Yeezus, it was actually difficult to kind of come across. Yeah, that's a pretty good sample. I mean, it stands out on Yeezus specifically because so much of Yeezus is punk, industrial, electronic, kind of influenced by Daft Punk and Death Grips, and you don't have a lot of music. I have a friend that's really into, playing guitar music. He loves guitarists and goes to a lot of like band shows. And he's been a Kanye fan, a big hip hop fan as well, but he really likes the music aspects of Kanye rather than kind of like the classical music aspects of Kanye. So the things that Kanye samples. So when he heard Yeezus, he was like, I didn't like Yeezus at all, but I loved Bound 2. And that's because on Bound 2, Kanye had been denying us music the whole time. And it's not until that track that he finally delivers music because it shows the growth of the Yeezus character, going from somebody that was much harsher and gritty and punk rock and demanding to, by Bound 2, being somebody that you're like, I like this person. This person's softening. The music just shows the change in the character's behavior and identity. Okay, so let's get into number 8. What's it going to be? Woods, Bon Iver. This comes from Lost in the World. And yeah, that was actually the first time that I ever remember hearing a Bon Iver song. And when My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy first came out, I was so obsessed with Lost in the World, specifically this opening part. And just Kanye taking, and Justin Vernon changing the song a bit. Because it's, I'm lost in the woods, I'm down on my mind, building a still to slow down the time. But he starts twisting the lyrics as we get further into the repetition till he's talking about being new to the city and that he's down for the night. So you go from something that's very natural and very wooded to something that's lost in this city, lost in the materialism, lost in the lights and all this glitz and glam, which gets into such a great example of the contrast and dichotomy between something that's more peaceful and lonely versus something that's more engulfing. So either way, it's kind of a loss for the character, right? Like when Bon Iver, Justin Vernon, Kanye was in the woods, things weren't that great. And in the city, things only get worse. Lost in the World. No Safe Place. Yeah, that's a good one. That is a good one. All right, so number 7, I Got a Woman, Ray Charles. I don't think I know this one right off the dome. Is this Gold Digger? Okay. His later work including his first major hit, Gold Digger, clinches the title as a guaranteed track on every party playlist ever made. Yeah. It's weird to me because on Twitter, I've seen people recently talking about how Gold Digger is the worst song in Late Registration, or they love Late Registration, but Gold Digger is their least favorite song. I just didn't realize there was a lot of Gold Digger backlash, and specifically people talking about the lyrics being outdated, which I didn't expect either, especially because the song has such a clever twist at the end, where it goes from Kanye just being like, oh, she's a gold digger, but then shows that this guy does the same thing and kind of has this girl that he's using. And when she sticks by his side, even when he's down and out, as soon as he gets on, he leaves her, which kind of shows this transactional nature of the relationship, and how women will use men and men will use women, which in a way sets up Blood on the Leaves way the fuck ahead of time. It was already a concept that Kanye had kind of already been exploring, and also sets up 808s and Heartbreak and the treatment of men and women there, which gets into My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. So Gold Digger was really this poppy, happy-go-lucky way of looking at how men and women kind of treat each other unkindly when money and fame are involved, that Kanye would go on to explore in depth on the rest of his discography. So yeah, the sample's a really good one. And in our Gold Digger episode, we talked specifically about how this song, I Got a Woman, I think it's this one, is from the perspective of this woman who's talking about this man that just, she wants to be a better man and she keeps trying to support, but he keeps failing her. So it's an interesting use of that song specifically. Or maybe it's about the man and how he takes advantage of her when he's just being kind of a scoundrel and a no good and low down, and she's being very patient with him. Either way, the plight is on the woman and the guy's being kind of an asshole. And that's the inverse to what we hear in the song, but it captures the tension that comes in at the end, that these are kind of the dynamics that are in place that complicate relationships. That's a good one. I'm pretty sure I'm going to say all of these are good, but okay. Diamonds Are Forever, Shirley Bassey. Yeah, Diamonds from Sierra Leone. Maybe one of the most clever samples that Kanye has had, and he's had a lot of clever samples in his career, but taking a song that's so materialism based and then having the juxtaposition of Jay-Z being kind of rah-rah about that lifestyle and Kanye's verse being like, yo, this shit actually has a cost, and there are people that are losing their lives due to us wanting these diamonds. So you have this glamour that's associated with the rock, the diamond, being explored in how it's actually compromising, and how when you're wearing the diamonds, you're actually wearing something that symbolizes pain and loss, and that people died to get this thing. Whew. So that song has a lot of range, going from something that's very like real and socially conscious to just being kind of this typical rap song when Jay-Z's verse comes in that's full of these awesome braggadocio, ego-driven lines. And just it kind of gets at the complications of the topic of diamonds and just the topic of status. Is a rapper supposed to take Kanye's route and talk about these diamonds, or are they supposed to take Jay-Z's route and kind of talk about and celebrate where they came from and what happens when you put both of them on a track, which contrasts so mightily to the original version of Diamonds from Sierra Leone, which is just Kanye kind of delivering more of a deliberate traditional hip-hop song. So for him to go from the original song to being like, no, I got a better concept for this. Yeah, that's pretty good. Okay. Number 5? 5. Eventually. Okay. Move On Up, Curtis Mayfield. Ooh. What is this? Okay. Touch the Sky. It's been a while since we covered Touch the Sky. Jeez. That might have been 2016 that we last talked about it really in depth. So yes, though I don't really remember how much we actually talked about the sample there. I think it's probably a good one, and you can already see how the two line up, right? This idea of Touch the Sky and this idea from Curtis Mayfield of moving on up and just capturing that same energy from Curtis Mayfield's song back in the day to Kanye now and repurposing it and bringing it into the 21st century. he always has that alignment between what he's sampling and what's going on in the song, which is what makes Kanye the GOAT artist to me. Because other artists will sample songs and it's purely for the aesthetics, where every song Kanye samples has some thematic reason or narrative reason for fitting into the song, which is just that much harder because you can't just pick and choose whatever you want because it sounds good, but you're actually making it part of what's going on. So that's cool. This wouldn't necessarily come to mind, at least at this point. Maybe if I went back and did some more research and refreshing to make like the top 10, much less number 5. It's catchy as fuck, but I can think of a lot of others that I think I like better. But let's see what's at number 4. Let's move on. Through the Fire by Chaka Khan. This actually was relevant recently because there was an interview with Chaka, and she was saying that she actually thought Through the Wire was stupid, and she was upset that she let Kanye use the sample, which people on Twitter found amazing because there were multiple pictures of Chaka with Kanye performing the song on stage, being very like happy and smiling. So for her to suddenly be like, no, I hated it, he sucks, like fuck him, just like, you had no problem like earning all that money and performing with him, and now you're saying this 14, 15 years later? Like, come on, Shaka, come on. But yeah, this is one of the best Kanye samples. I mean, Through the Wire was the first breakout solo Kanye song, and it used Through the Fire and introduced a lot of people to what his style was in that way. I mean, we had been hearing Kanye flip those soul sounds and kind of do the chipmunk style on his production on Blueprint, other artists he was producing songs for. But to get like the Kanye joint, I mean, he was saving all those beats for himself, right? Like the best stuff he had, which would include Through the Wire, Through the Fire, and just also shows how Kanye, even at the beginning, was using samples in this very deliberate way where he was building on them rather than just using them for aesthetic purposes. But that Through the Wire was him going through the fire to get what he wanted and to reach his dream. And that's so cool. This is like the OG track. So yeah, I think in any list of top 10 like greatest Kanye samples, this has to make the list at some point. All right, what do we got coming in at 3? Walk With Me, the Aarc Choir. Jesus Walks. Yeah, that was pretty huge too. Just for the fact, I mean, it was one of the initial songs to use that like gospel sound in that way that was so like unmistakably gospel and so unmistakably like Jesus driven, to where even people that weren't religious at all, like myself, are just sitting there being like, yeah, Jesus walks with me, like fuck yeah. Like Kanye really got us all like singing that, and just this use of the sample is so unexpected, yet he makes it so pop music friendly. And I mean, changed music, I think changed hip hop with Through the Wire and with Walk With Me and the sample of that on Jesus Walk. So yeah, this definitely is up there as well. This is a pretty solid list overall. I didn't see who wrote it, but props to who wrote it. Let's see what's at 2. Blood on the Leaves has to be on here at some point, right? I mean, that would make or break what I think ultimately of this list. Take Me for a Little While, The Royal Jesters. What? Okay, this is... Okay, if you've listened to our podcast ever, not the YouTube channel, but like the actual podcast, Watching the Throne on iTunes, Spotify, any of that, we do these huge breakdowns on every song where we go through all the samples used and explained how they were used, which is why I'm able to do this video without any research, just off the cuff, and talk so much about the samples, because we've already done all this work, except for Touch the Sky. I don't remember this coming up at all in our Ghost Town discussions. If you've listened to the episode, maybe you remember and you're like, yeah, you guys talked about it for 15 minutes and would it shut up? Which happens. But I don't remember this at all. Yo, this is weird. Okay. Um, since the original track's 1965 release has been covered by Dave Edmunds, Dusty Springfield, Vanilla Fudge. West has certainly been the first to transform it into a hip hop classic. Upon its release, Ghost Town was received with significant praise. Yeah. Interestingly, the song, which featured guest vocals from Party Next Door, Shake, and Kid Cudi, was originally intended. Yo, this is. I almost want to call bullshit because. What? Who sampled Ghost Town? We're going to do some research here. Is it just me being dumb? Oh, no. There it is. 12 seconds in. Yeah, so maybe I'm just forgetting. Because our discussion on Ghost Town centered so much around the Shirley Ann Lee sample and explaining how that sample connects to not only Fourth Dimension, but Free, Ghost Town Part 2, and how Kanye kind of divided Someday, which was a Shirley Ann Lee song, into two samples on two different songs, thus uniting Fourth Dimension on Kids See Ghosts with Ghost Town on Ye, which not only connects Ghost Town with Kids See Ghosts, but also connects Ye and Kids See Ghosts, which leads to a whole like conversation. I wrote about it on Forbes. We have podcast episodes about it. I've talked about it a lot on our Twitter accounts. So maybe I just forgot. So yeah, I feel so shocked and befuddled. I have nothing more to really add because I don't remember anything more from this song or what it sounds like. I'd play the clip, but I don't know if we get copyright knocked down. So I'll get back to y'all on this. I'll do a follow-up. Man. All right, so number one has to be Blood on the Leaves, right? No! Oh my goodness. Yo, fuck this list. It's been a solid list, but I think you could almost take any 10 Kanye songs that have samples and be like, this is a list of Kanye songs that have sampled, but to not have Blood on the Leaves, which is like, holy shit. Wow. Okay. But the Harder, Better, Faster, Stronger sample is a GOAT sample, especially bringing in this kind of electronica, techno, house music. Sorry if you're a Daft Punk fan and you're like, how dare you use some of those words with Daft Punk? I'm just throwing out words that I associate with techno music. But Kanye bringing that in on Graduation with Stronger was kind of game-changing. And it's a soundscape he would continue to explore moving forward. You can almost see Paranoid being an offshoot of Harder, Better, Faster, Stronger. You can see almost Lost in the World, too, with kind of how the beat drives. Saying the guitar on Devil in a New Dress is probably a bit of a stretch, but I think just that lighter, brighter soundscape that's a little bit more computerized and distorted coming in to music, to hip-hop, and the guitar on Devil in a New Dress kind of reminds me of that. Same with Hold My Liquor, right? And so much of, not so much of Yeezus, but a decent amount of Yeezus had Daft Punk involved, like the synths on Site. So this really did kick off a whole era of exploration for Kanye across multiple albums. And not only that, it was Kanye's, I believe, first number one song. I think Gold Digger got to 2, maybe Gold Digger got to 1, but Stronger absolutely got to number 1. It was everywhere. It was ubiquitous. When I was in college, this was the kickoff song for every party we had at the Sigma Chi house. So I have very fond memories of this song. It's one of the songs that got me into being a Kanye fan and just being like, this guy makes great music. And I think a lot of people really look to it as a tipping point moment for the inclusion of this kind of outside soul music, R&B music influence on rap and hip hop. So yeah, that's a pretty big one. But still, fucking Blood on the Leaves, man. Fucking Blood on the Leaves. If you have any other songs that you think should have been included the same way I'm defending Blood on the Leaves, please let me know in the comments. If you want to support the channel, the easiest way is just liking and subscribing, as that tells YouTube that this is content people are enjoying, and then they show it to more people, which ultimately helps us. And then we also have some things in the description section that are links to the podcast, merchandise that we have, the Yeezus book that we wrote. So if you want to check those things out, you can. And if you have any requests for videos, leave that down below. And until the next time, stay wavy, keep it loopy, and I will try not to be in so much disbelief about the sample on Ghost Town that I clearly forgot about. See ya.